Hello, hello. All right, I reached a really important financial milestone in my life, and that is reaching what I think of Coast Fire, which means reaching a point where your net worth is enough where if you don't contribute to it anymore at all, other than just letting it sit in the market in mutual funds, by the time you want to retire, you'll have enough money. Hi, my name is Linda. I am a finance grad and I love talking about money, budgeting, and personal finance. Follow me along this journey as I go through some of my frugal habits, but I also share how I was able to enjoy some luxuries along the way. So it doesn't mean you necessarily don't have to work anymore, but it's a point in my life where I don't really need to necessarily make more money or a lot of money to live the life that I want to live. And so that number to me was $500,000. And I wanted to make sure it was mostly in cash or retirement accounts. So this does not include my mortgage because a house can depreciate. Yes, it's true. Houses can depreciate, or maybe it might even burn down. Who knows? But with my cash accounts and my retirement savings, I have reached my Coast Fire and I have come a long way. I think it's safe to say to be at this point is definitely a point of privilege. I just have to note that I didn't get really anything monetarily handed to me. I actually started off in debt, student loans, and then I got a car loan right after college. So I was in about $30,000 of debt when I graduated college. And then from being in debt, saving a lot of money over the years, I finally reached this goal. And so with $500,000, I'm in my mid 30s now. $500,000 by the time I'm 65 will be about $4 million if I don't contribute anything to it. And I also wanted to share my journey on how I got there and some tips and tricks I use to stay frugal, and maybe that's something you can use in your life as well. Let's start from the beginning with my career trajectory. How much have I been making over the years, the past 12 years since I graduated college? So here's my salary over time. And so, as you could see, it's grown quite a bit, but it's also varied. And just to show what kind of roles I had, here's the roles that I had over the years. I first started off my career in tech support in a call center, taking calls from angry customers every single day. So this started off at $56,000 for my very first job out of college. I was actually so proud to land this job. I taped the acceptance letter on my wall in front of my bed because it was tough for me to land a job after college. My GPA was not the best, but I was lucky and got into tech support right away. And so over the years, I worked at that same company and then I moved companies and became a data analyst, moving my way up into the six figures. And I did take a pay cut a little bit in the middle of my career and then eventually became a data lead. But then I got laid off, and that's where the 30,000 income is. That's when I was unfortunately laid off, and it took almost a year for me to find a new job. But the greatest thing happened afterwards. I got hired as a manager in my dream company, which is a FANG company. So that's where my income shot up. After a year and a half, I found that I was actually very unhappy in that company. And I took stock of where I was. And I was really lucky that I had enough savings during that time. And I decided to move positions and take a significant pay cut. But because I was really frugal and I don't have many expenses, taking a pay cut was not a big deal for me, especially as a single person with no kids. So I moved jobs, took an almost $60,000 pay cut, and that's where I am now. And so looking at my budget, I think the key for me was trying to live like a poor college student as long as possible. And I think that also, in combination with my salary and my budgeting with being frugal, I think that's how I'm able to save that much money and be in a coast fire position today. This is how I usually spend my budget. So with mortgage, of course, that's the biggest chunk is 1700. And so we have our different expenses laid out there. And I really want to try to save a lot these upcoming years for a down payment on a house, a new car, and other expenses. I think earlier in my career, my expenses were definitely actually half of what that is. Now I was able to find rent for $700. My food budget was smaller, entertainment, of course, smaller, but I definitely let myself have some luxuries. For instance, I flew business class 2 times already, and between this time, points and miles is definitely a huge hobby of mine. So that's an area where I was able to enjoy some luxuries, but not at the biggest cost. Sizable purchases here and there, for instance, my MacBook Pro laptop, maybe my Yamaha keyboard and such. Also, with my mortgage, I definitely can have a roommate if I wanted, but I chose to live alone, so that's another huge luxury of mine. But for the most part, I try to keep my monthly expenses as low as possible. Okay, so how am I going to get $4 million from just a $500,000 in savings right now? That is the power of compound interest when you put your money in the mutual funds or some type of retirement plan. The rate of return, I tend to vary from 8% to 10%. The cool thing about this is that with the power of compound interest, you can expect your money to double every 7 to 10 years. Over the past decade, my most sizable investments have been growing at 10%. And to prove that my investments have been growing at least 10% over time, here's my most sizable account in T. Rowe Price that has my biggest retirement. And as you can see, over the last few years, it has been kind of fluctuating. 13% year to date, 18% past year. The past 3 years have been 5%. The pandemic kind of messed with that. Since inception has been about 10%. So what am I planning to change about my life at this time? Right now, I don't plan to stop working. I actually do like my job and it's giving me good income. So I'm going to stay here as long as I can. But at this time, I do have the option if I need to take a rest or hiatus from work. And that's going to be in the back of my mind in case I need to take advantage of that. In the future, we'll see what happens with like if I get married and have kids, that might all change. And I am already saving for another house and other big expenses. And so I want to keep continuing to work so I could supplement those and not have to take out from my savings. But it's good to know that I could breathe a little bit easier here. On this channel, I love talking about finance and how to get out of debt as well and how to deal with credit cards. So definitely check out those other videos there. I also have a budgeting template that is free to use that you can download in the description below. And also I have a video of how to use that budget template linked here. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys will be able to reach your Coast Fire goals as well.